Hi there, it's me again. Let's continue with this book, Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. We're on chapter 3, A Caucus Race and a Long Tail. Let me drink some water first. They were indeed a queer-looking party that assembled on the bank. The birds with draggled feathers, the animals with their fur clinging close to them, and all dripping wet, cross, and uncomfortable. The first question, of course, was how to get dry again, and after a few minutes, it seemed quite natural to Alice to find herself talking familiarly with them, as if she had known them all her life. Indeed, she had quite a long argument with the lorry, who at last turned sulky and would only say, "I am older than you, and you must know better." At last the mouse, who seemed to be the person of some authority among them, called out, "Sit down, all of you, and listen to me. I'll soon make you dry enough." They all sat down at once, in a large ring, with the mouse in the middle. Alice kept her eyes anxiously fixed on it, for she felt sure she would catch a bad cold if she did not get dry very soon. Said the mouse with an important air. "Are you all ready? This is the driest thing I know." William the Conqueror, whose cause was favored by the Pope, was soon submitted to by the English who wanted leaders, and had been of late much accustomed to aspiration and conquest. Edwin and Morecambe, the Earls of Mercia and Northumberland. "Ugh," said the lorry with a shiver. "I beg your pardon?" said the mouse, frowning, but very politely. "Did you speak?" "Not I," said the lorry hastily. "I thought you did," said the mouse. "I proceed. Edwin and Morecambe, the Earls of Mercia and Northumberland, declared for him, and even Stigand, the patriotic Archbishop for Canterbury, found it advisable." "Found what?" said the duck. "Found it." The mouse replied rather crossly. "Of course you know what it means." "I know what it means well enough when I find a thing," said the duck. "It's generally for a frog or a worm. The question is, what did the Archbishop find?" The mouse did not notice this question, but hurriedly went on. "Found it advisable to go with Edgar Atheling, to meet William and offer him the crown. William's conduct at first was moderate, but the insolence of his nobles— How are you getting on now, my dear?" it continued, turning to Alice as it spoke. "As wet as ever," said Alice in a melancholy tone. "It doesn't seem to dry me at all." "In that case," said the dodo, solemnly, rising to its feet, "I move that the meeting adjourn for the immediate adoption of more energetic remedies." "Speak English," said the eaglet. "I don't know the meaning of half those long words, and what's more, I don't believe you do either." And the eaglet bent down its head to hide a smile. Some of the other birds tittered audibly. "What I was going to say," said the dodo in an offended tone, "was that the best thing to get us dry would be a caucus race." "What is a caucus race?" said Alice. Not that she wanted to know much, but the dodo had paused as if it thought that somebody ought to speak, and no one else seemed inclined to say anything. "The best way to explain it is to do it," said the dodo. "First, it marked out a race course in a sort of circle, and then all the party were placed along the course. Here and there was no 1, 2, 3 and halfway, but they began running when they liked, and left off when they liked, so that it was not easy to know when the race was over. However, when they had been running half an hour or so, and were quite dry again, the dodo suddenly called out, 'The race is over!' And they all crowded around him, panting and asking, But who has won?" This question the dodo could not answer. Without a great deal of thought, and it sat for a long time with one finger pressed upon its forehead, while the rest waited in silence. At last, the dodo said, "Everybody has one, and all must have prizes." "But who is to give the prizes?" Quite a chorus of voices asked. "Why, she, of course," said the dodo, pointing to Alice with one finger. And the whole party at once crowded around her, calling out in a confused way, "Prizes! Prizes!" Alice had no idea what to do, and in despair she put her hand in her pocket and pulled out a box of confit and handed them round as prizes. There was exactly one apiece all round. "But she must have a prize herself, you know," said the mouse. "Of course," said the dodo, replied very gravely. "What else have you got in your pocket?" he went on, turning to Alice. "Only a thimble," said Alice sadly. "Hand it over here," said the dodo. Then they all crowded round her once more, while the dodo solemnly presented the thimble, saying, "We beg your acceptance of this elegant thimble." And they all cheered. The next thing was to eat the comfits. This caused some noise and confusion as the large birds complained that they could not taste theirs, and the small ones choked and had to be patted on the back. However, it was over at last, and they sat down again in a ring and begged the mouse to tell them something more. "You promised to tell me your victory, you know," said Alice. "And what is it you hate C and D?" she added in a whisper, half afraid that it would be offended again. "Mine is a long and a sad tale," said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. "It is a long tale, certainly," said Alice, looking down with wonder at the mouse's tail. "But why do you call it sad?" And she kept on puzzling about it while the mouse was speaking. "You are not attending," said the mouse to Alice severely. "What are you thinking of?" "I beg your pardon, you have got to the fifth band, I think." "I had not," cried the mouse, sharply and very angrily. "Not," said Alice, always ready to make herself useful, and looking anxiously about her. "Oh, do let me help to undo it." "I shall do nothing of the sort," said the mouse, getting up and walking away. "You insult me by talking such nonsense." "I didn't mean it," pleaded poor Alice, "but you're so easily offended, you know." The mouse only growled in reply. "Please come back and finish your story," Alice called after it, and the others all joined in the chorus. "Yes, please do." But the mouse only shook its head impatiently and walked a little quicker. "I wish I had Ardina here. Now I know I do," said Alice aloud, addressing nobody in particular. She would soon fetch it back. "And who is Dina, if I might venture to ask the question?" asked the Lory. Alice replied eagerly, for she was always ready to talk about her pet. "Dina's her cat, and she is such a capital one for catching mice, you can't think. And oh, I wish you could see her after the birds, and why, she'll eat a little bird as soon as she looks at it." This speech caused a remarkable sensation among the party. Some of the birds hurried off at once. One old magpie began wrapping itself up very carefully, remarking, "I really must be getting home. The night air doesn't suit my throat." And a canary called out in a trembling voice to its children, "Come away, my dears, it's high time you were all in bed." On various pretexts they all moved off, and Alice was soon left alone. Poor Alice began to cry again, for she felt very lonely and low-spirited. In a little while, however, she again heard a little pattering of footsteps in the distance, and she looked up eagerly, half hoping that the mouse has changed its mind, and was coming back to finish the story. Well, that's a very short chapter. I hope you guys are wondering what chapter 4 will be. Chapter 4 is The Rabbit Sends in a Little Bill. Okay, see you tomorrow for chapter 4.